if we go to Europe mainly, it's the Club World Cup, but the noise tends to be coming out of Europe, right? Because and the continuous conversation is the load on the players, just the amount of games and the concerns around that. And we heard Jurgen Klopp adding his voice to this, and now we've also heard from the man who heads up Bayern Munich, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, and he has the take that, well, players are continuing to ask for large wage amounts, right? And then the agents as well are involved. I know most recently with the deal for Florian Wirtz, his agent backed 10 million, right? And this demand, this financial demand that continues to come from the players means that it needs to be met by the clubs. And the way you turn revenue is by putting on more games. And so essentially, the players are to blame. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge did say what needs to happen is everyone in football needs to come sit down and chart a new path forward. But Chuck, does he have a point? Do the players, rather than complaining, need to look at themselves as the reasons why there are so many games? Because it has to fund their wage demands?
Man, look, his solution is something I can get on board with, but his actual cause of the problem, which is the players, I don't know if that's necessarily true, because FIFA has been trying to get more games. FIFA, that is, right? Whether it's Nations League, whether it's an expanded World Cup, they try to be a breakaway league, and I think this is quote unquote the reformatting of the Champions League plus the Club World Cup is FIFA's response to the proposed Super League. So the people up top have realized that there's plenty of money in football, and so even without the demands of the players or more salaries or transfer fees or signing on fees, etc., the footballing bodies themselves have been wanting more games. I know the head of FIFA. What's the 15-year-olds want to see more games? He's done the research. I'm like, who wants to see game up one game?
Wenger saying that Chuck is what like got me was like, man, Arsene, you've drank the Kool-Aid of FIFA, and now you're out here just parroting what is being said in that office.
So when you look at just that thing, Jay, and there's no surprise why Kevin De Bruyne is here in South Africa dancing and just playing with the kids, because he's someone who's been very vocal about the Club World Cup. That's why you have a case like someone like Leroy Sané signed for, is it Gala or Fenerbahce? But it's still representing Bayern Munich. Kevin De Bruyne has signed for Napoli, but he could have effectively still been available for the Club World Cup. But it's not something he wants to do going into the new season with Napoli because it's just too much football in the legs. And look, I get it back in the day, no one complained. But with modern medicine and trying to get the maximum out of players, with the faster game, with better knowledge about players' bodies and physical conditions, you want to then have rest. Oh, Jurgen Klopp has then said, not Jurgen Klopp, I think it was Pep Guardiola saying, in the NBA, they play about 80 games, which is a lot, right? But they've got 4 months off. They get to rest and recover and recoup all the energy that's required for the next season. So, Jay, with that being said, man, I don't know if you can squarely look at the players because lots of players have protested and said, we're tired of playing the games, number one. Number two, I think as much as players do want more money and stuff like that, clubs ultimately have the final say. We saw the tussle with Mo Salah and Liverpool. If Mo Salah wanted more money, Liverpool could have easily said, no, we've got the money to buy Florian Wirtz and someone else. But in the end, they came to an agreement where Mo Salah wants more money. I don't know what the hold-up was. Was it money or contract length? But ultimately, my point is that Liverpool had the bargaining power to say yes or no to Mo Salah. They said yes. And so whether a player wants 10 million, 20 million, players can say, clubs, Roy, ultimately have the final say. There are rumors that Sancho does not want to leave to join Juve because he has to take a pay cut. The teams ultimately can say, Sancho, it's fine, because they've got the ultimate say. And Nakona, they're the ones who agreed to a contract where Sancho's paid that much money. So for me, Jay, you can demand all you want. It's like always saying with Desiree Ellis. If Desiree leaves, Uzoyap. So if you're saying to me, I want to earn double my money, where are you going to go? If not Saudi. So for me, ultimately, Jay, the solution about football needs to come together, because for me, ever since Neymar signed from Barca to PSG, football was broken in terms of transfer fees, inflated numbers, etc. But I do agree that football needs to come together, and it's not gonna work, because as much as petrol does come down, the taxi price does not come down. The price of eggs and bread does not come down drastically because we're now on the up. So for the reform of football, I don't think people will come down and sit and say, you were earning 80,000, let's bring it back to 60. Who's going to agree to that? So the idea in theory is great. Can it be actually made to work? I don't think so, Jay.
There's a point, Chuck. Rummenigge does make a point in terms of the high wages, right? So in football, with the football revenues, right? I'll speak about Europe because their financials do get published. A ratio, for example, which is healthy for a football club, is in terms of wages to turnover. You don't want to exceed 70%, where 70% of your income is going to wages. I remember a few seasons ago with Everton. Everton are one of the clubs who've continuously found themselves in the red where their finances are concerned. I think like 90% of what they were making was going to wages, right? Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the clubs are making that decision. They are making you're right. They are making the decision to pay the players these amounts. And you know what? Given you don't want to lose players, and your star players especially, you want to take care of them, and you want them to not then go strengthen a competitor. But we saw over the years, for example, how many times did Ronaldo sign a contract only for Messi to sign a contract, only for Ronaldo to then come back and sign a contract for Real Madrid and Barcelona? I was looking just the other day. I was reminded of how Barcelona found themselves in one of the reasons they found themselves in a situation where they have to be pulling economic levers, because Jose Bartomeu gave Samuel Umtiti 600,000 euros a week. Why? You want to tell me that there was not a better decision that you could have made in that position? Now I know Umtiti was good at that point in time, but we're not talking about Franco Baresi here. Come on, and you made that decision. Similarly to how they got to a point, and that's the thing, right? Eventually they got to a point where they said to Messi of all people, we can't. And he was there crying and whatever the case may be. It's like, yeah, it's sad, it's heartbreaking, but we can't pay you this amount, because for the long-term health of this football club, it is best for us to part ways. So ultimately, the clubs still do hold the power. And the clubs are greedy, man. The federations are greedy. The reason we have an extended Champions League is not because they're trying to innovate football. It's because they were threatened by the Super League. And then they saw that, there's still more money to be had in the football space, and they added more games. Same thing with FIFA, and now it's a tussle for power, right, between UEFA as well as FIFA, and the people who suffer are the players at the end of the day. Do I think players shouldn't be earning as much as they are? I mean, you don't need 500,000 euros a week, But if there's 500,000 euros a week available there, I'd rather that it goes to the players than it goes back to the club owners, at the end of the day, right? So, yes, those wages do play a part, and football continues to need to get more money. But it doesn't have to be like that, because the decision makers are the ones who are doling out the cash, and they're the ones who continue to sign deals to bring in the money.